Hi everyone. First of all, thank you so much for taking the time to sign up to this community. I am as new to Mighty Networks as many of you seem to be, and so I'm getting used to this as well. In case you're not familiar, a Mighty Network is a community website. It's pretty swanky. You can access it either through the website or through the app if you download the Mighty Networks app and search for Rethinking Education. It's kind of like a mini Facebook for special interest groups, except that you get to see everything that people have posted and there are no ads and it doesn't accidentally break democracy. So that's all good. Some of you may have joined because you wanted to access the free video course that we made for parents and carers who want to help their children become more confident, effective, independent learners. Some of you may have been surprised upon signing up to discover that you were being asked to contribute to a community forum, and that's totally fair enough. There's no obligation for you to actively participate in this group. If you just want to access the Learning to Learn at Home resources, or if you just want to quietly observe while you see what other people do within this space, then that's fine. You're very welcome to join us and be a silent witness. Other people may have joined because you want to connect with other educators or other parents and carers who are interested in rethinking various aspects of education. Again, this is great and you are very welcome. I just want to give you a little bit of background as to why we, and by we I mean Kate McAllister and I, why we decided to set up this site. I first met Kate over 10 years ago when she joined my school, and we actually met in the interview room. She was appointing people to join her team of teachers who would be tasked with designing and teaching a Year 7 Learning to Learn curriculum for the whole of Year 7 for 5 lessons a week. And we could do with that time what we wanted, which was this incredible opportunity to do something really bold and different. And I wanted to capture it in the most robust way possible. And so that became pretty much the focus of the next 10 years of my life, where I did a PhD, which was an 8-year study where we followed 4 cohorts of children through that school from Year 7 through to Year 11, 1 control cohort and 3 Learning to Learn cohorts. And that study found that those young people went on to achieve the best set of results that school had ever seen by some margin. And in particular, it was advantageous for disadvantaged children. So we saw accelerated learning among children from poorer backgrounds, which was great. That's what we wanted to see. We recently wrote this story up in a book called Fear is the Mind Killer. And we've serialized parts of that book in many places on the internet, which we'll link to within the forum. Since that study finished, we've taken the learning skills approach out into many different areas, from early years settings all the way through to universities, from schools in disadvantaged areas to elite international colleges, from workplaces to refugee camps. And it seems that we've developed, we adapt what we do in different contexts, but it seems that we've developed an almost sort of universal approach to helping people get better at what they do, or to grow as people, say. And Kate, we're taking this out into new areas still. So Kate is currently in the Dominican Republic, setting up a hive school, a new kind of school that's based in these principles of learning to learn, using the UN's Sustainable Development Goals as the basis for a curriculum. So one of our aims for this community forum is to serve as a place where people who are interested in learning to learn, and in our work in particular, can find out more about us, can interact with us, and learn from like-minded people who are on similar journeys all over the world. But our aims for this site are not limited to learning to learn. In particular, as the name would suggest, we're really interested in many wider questions and connecting with other people who want to rethink and reform the way that we do education. Please don't get me wrong, I am a huge fan of education. I think and read and talk about it almost endlessly, and Kate is the same. Education is a wonderful thing, and I believe is our best bet for creating a more harmonious, sustainable world. But we are not alone in thinking that the education system needs to change, and it needs to change pretty urgently if it's going to become fit for the purpose of helping young people prepare for life in an uncertain, increasingly challenging and rapidly changing world. And I'll share just 3 examples of how I think education needs to change, and these things could happen really quite quickly. The first one is about oracy, the practice of developing speaking and listening. In schools, lots of emphasis is placed on written literacy and numeracy, and oracy is often played second fiddle to those agendas, which is a real shame because Speaking and listening are so important to helping young people to develop the confidence to take their place in the world, to find their voice, physically find their voice, but also to metaphorically find their voice. And this is not a problem that exists throughout the entire school system. Private schools take oracy really seriously. At Eton, they recently built a new debating chamber for £18 million, which is an incredible amount of money. If you look it up, it's called Jafar Hall. It looks a bit like the House of Commons. It's got like rows of wooden benches sort of facing each other. And when they do debates in places like Eton, something that I only became aware of quite recently is that the team that's arguing for the motion is referred to as the government, and the team that's arguing against the motion is referred to as the opposition, and even the individuals in those debates are referred to as the Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Minister, which is incredible, right? Like they're literally role-playing for when they get to run the country. And that's a good thing, you know, we should rehearse such things, but surely we should be playing that game, we should be learning those skills in every school in the land and every school on the planet. And a survey of the world's current politicians would suggest that actually we need to be accessing a wider talent pool than we do currently. The second area is around mental health. There is just so much evidence now that among teachers and among young people, there are just rocketing problems with mental health. And lots of this is driven by the sort of high stakes accountability of examinations. In recent years, the youth suicide rate and self-harming and anxiety diagnoses and the use of medications has doubled, and it's just out of control. And I think that that's a very serious thing to address. And the third thing is linked to that really, which is this idea of enforced failure. At the moment, the GCSE assessment system requires that 1/3 of young people will fail. Well, about 32% of people will get grade 1, 2, or 3. And if they do that, then they have to resit, so it's a fail. And that's remarkable, isn't it? If you zoom out and just think, well, we've built a machine that produces failure. Hundreds of thousands of young people a year who are told that they are rubbish at stuff. And that has such a long-lasting impact on young people's lives, their sense of hope for the future, their sense of what they can go on to achieve. And it doesn't have to be that way. And there are other people. There's a really interesting group called Rethinking Assessment that's just popped up recently that's looking at questions like this. Some of these are changes that need to happen at the top. For example, changes to GCSEs. But not all of these changes do need to happen at the top. Even if we could persuade our current political leaders to adopt these as policies, the next Secretary of State would come along and scrap the whole thing and implement something else, because that's what Secretaries of State do. Instead, we need this change to come from, not even necessarily from the bottom up, but from all layers throughout the system, from people who are affected by education, whether that's parents and carers, teachers, school leaders, people within the school system, people outside the school system. We need to drive this change ourselves. And it's not to say that this change isn't happening already. It's happening all over the place. There's some really innovative practice that's happening all over the planet. But often these practices happen in silos. People are sort of so busy focusing on their own thing that they don't find the time to look up and to look sideways and to say, oh, actually, there's lots of people here who are plowing this same furrow. And actually, if we join forces, we may be able to learn from one another and accelerate progress. And that's where this forum comes in, really. What we really want is to bring people together from all walks of life and from all different roles: teachers, teaching assistants, special educational needs specialists, school leaders, young people themselves, researchers, concerned citizens, whoever it is that you are, to share our experiences and our stories, our frustrations and our achievements, and maybe even to organize and to get things done. Start creating and scaling up workable alternatives to this very rigid, inflexible, top-down system that is frankly starting to come apart at the seams, and we can see lots of evidence of that. I started this video by saying that Mighty Networks is as new to me as it is to many of you. We set up this network a couple of weeks ago, almost on a whim. It was on the night that Lockdown 3 was announced. And the main aim for that was to get this video course out there so that we could help people who are struggling with homeschooling. And that includes us. You know, we're on this journey with you. We're not presenting ourselves as people who figured out perfect answers to this. We're very much on this journey with you. So far, around 60 people have joined the community, which is absolutely wonderful. And it's a really diverse group so far. But having spoken to other people who set up online groups, I have it on good authority that you need more people than that to make a community like this work. In particular, you need around 200 to 300 people as a starting point. And so I'm going to ask for you to do 3 things now. Number 1, if there's anyone you know who you think might be interested in joining this network, this group, this community, especially if you think that they would be likely to play an active role in taking part and sharing ideas and making things happen, please do let them know about the group and ask them to join us. Secondly, if there are any particular areas of interest that you would like to pursue or develop through this community, please let Kate or I know either by posting publicly within the forum or by messaging me privately. And thirdly, please be patient for a few weeks while we develop this community and grow it. We'll continue to post a few things here and there. We'll post new podcast episodes, the Rethinking Education podcast, and please feel free to pick up the conversations that have already started to take place. But apart from that, as I say, please be patient. Once we get more people on board, as I say, around the 200 to 300 mark, we'll do a live launch and we'll start a whole host of curated discussions based around rethinking and reforming education so that we might just end up with a less hair-raising, more harmonious, equitable, peaceable world. Well, it's a noble aim, isn't it? But it'll keep us off the streets. So thank you very much for your attention and for your interest so far. Please watch this space and we'll be in touch soon.